What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Couple on Fire podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk all about it's never too late in marriage and in life. And when's that coming up?
Right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Couple on Fire podcast. This podcast is for couples, for marriages, and for families within the Christian community. We exist to help break the stigma that happens within the Christian community. We're talking about divorce, we're talking about addiction, and we're talking about so much more. We believe that all this is possible in this life strictly based on the power of Jesus Christ and his ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to today's show. I'm one of your hosts, Josh. I'm here with the always beautiful, amazing.
You don't say that every week.
I'm saying it whenever I want to say it. Miss Christy, how are you, love?
I'm good. Today is Josh's birthday.
Oh,
So
I'm 68 years old today. 68.
You are not 68.
I'm close.
No, he's
close.
not.
I'm close. 68.
Tell everybody what your hashtag is.
Hashtag is?
Wait.
Whoa.
So every year I started a tradition to where on our birthdays we do we come up with a hashtag. That's like a little rhyme for it. And so tell everybody what your hashtag is this year.
48. It's never too late.
That's right.
That's good. I think that's good. That's pretty good. So we said, why not? Today is actually my birthday, so why not? Christy's like, well, let's do the episode over basically what your hashtag is, but how it applies to marriages. And I think that's an amazing idea.
All my ideas are amazing.
I mean, hello. Can't call you beautiful, but I can tell you how amazing you are.
How smart I am.
Right, how smart you are. Like, we'll skip the beauty for a couple weeks. We'll talk about just how smart you are.
Like, you're so smart.
You're so smart. No. Okay, so it's never too late, right? And I think that is an amazing thing. I think it's super easy, though, for us to count ourselves out. I think it's really, really easy. We can see and compare ourselves to other people in the world. I think with social media being so prevalent, it's real easy for us to compare our stories to other people's stories and really get down on ourselves. And so, I know I can do that. I know my wife can do that. I know it's just a really easy thing to do. But the honest to goodness truth is it is never too late. I mean, God has something amazing for every single person that's on this planet. And look at Noah. The story in the book of Noah. It's just never too late. It's just never too late.
Right? You said look at Noah, and I thought you were talking about Doug and Stacy's son.
No,
I'm like,
look, Noah. He's like 15. Look at Noah. He did so much by 15 years old. No.
Oh, that makes much more sense. Okay. The Noah, the Ark, the rainbow.
That guy.
Yeah,
the old guy. Okay, so
611 years old.
Just 6'11". That's it. But he got it done, right? He did. He built himself a fancy boat. Put a bunch of animals on it. It was good to go. Okay, so we have 4 points that we want to share with you guys tonight. We're just going to jump right on in. Number 1, it's never too late to embrace vulnerability.
So I think this is the first topic, the first point, because it's the most important, me personally, because I think we as humans struggle with vulnerability the most. For those of you that have never heard of Brené Brown, she, studies vulnerability and studies the shame, how we deal with shame. And I think your marriage is no different. So anywhere that we should be the most vulnerable is in our marriage with each other and being able to be our full authentic selves and not try to act like we have all the answers or that we're perfect, especially with one another. So if we're going to start practice being vulnerable anywhere, I would say it needs to start with your spouse.
I think it does. I think the problem, though, is if you've been in a relationship long enough, there's probably been some pain dealt to you by your spouse.
Yeah, maybe.
And over time.
Or you're a baby.
Or you're just, apparently you need big panties to put on, right?
That's not true. I'm just kidding.
Put on. But maybe there is some pain that's been dealt to you. And vulnerability is something that's really, really hard. But I can tell you that if you want, your intimacy between you to grow deeper, if you want your trust to grow deeper between you and your partner, vulnerability needs to be reenacted at some point, right? There's got to be a time where it says, okay, there is no right of wrongs. I'm not keeping track of that stuff. I'm putting it in the back, and we're going to leave it in the past, and we're going to embrace vulnerability, and we're going to step forward and be bold and courageous in our relationship and our marriage, because it will eat at you and your marriage just a little bits at a time. When there's zero vulnerability, there is no intimacy. And that's the truth. Am I wrong?
No, that's very good. My brain, I have a couple things I wanted to say, but we have a comment too.
Let me scroll it. Happy birthday, Joshua. Scream it loud so you can hear me. Okay.
I heard it.
We heard it pretty close. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks,
Happy
Sam.
birthday to me.
So I think with this point, though, the thing that we need to remember is sometimes in marriages too, we can say, well, I am vulnerable with my spouse. I tell him or her like some feelings that I'm feeling and they don't take it seriously. It's important though too to say, are you giving that safe space, or are you holding the space to where that your spouse can be vulnerable with you too?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're very inward focused. So either we're saying, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not comfortable with that. So you guys need to sit down together as a couple and decide maybe small things to start with. Maybe there's trust issues in the past, or maybe you had a hard upbringing, so you have a hard time trusting. But just start having the hard conversations, but also ensuring you both are holding the space for one another to be vulnerable together, and not just expecting it to be one-sided or only thinking about your vulnerability. Thinking of your spouses too.
Yeah, and I think there's so much power in that, right? Because we always are like, I'm waiting for my spouse to act first.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, no, vulnerability is something that I want. I need to start showing my spouse some vulnerability on my behalf to encourage them to show some vulnerability. And that's kind of like taking responsibility, which is kind of what you were getting at, taking some responsibility, holding space, and making sure that vulnerability works both ways.
Yeah, I think it's most important for the females, the wives in the relationships, to hold a safe space for their husbands to be vulnerable. So like I said, Brene Brown has done a lot of shame research, done a lot of vulnerability. And, she got done doing a talk one time and she was doing a book signing or something at the end. And a guy walked up to her, and she'd been doing it for a few years at this point. And a guy walked up to her and said, I noticed in your research, you never had any data about men. And she had a reason why she didn't. Like, no, it's always been geared towards females or this and that. And he was like, that's really easy. That's really convenient for you. And she was like, tell me more. What do you mean? She's a psychologist. She gets it. And he's like, you see the women standing back there? So he was brought to her conference by his 2 daughters and his wife. And he said, they would much rather see me die on top of my white horse in my shining armor than ever see me be quote unquote weak, which is what men are held to this unreal, or they feel like they're held to this unrealistic expectation. So, and if you talk to a lot of men and you just leave the space open for them, a lot of them will say, women want us to be vulnerable. They want us to share our feelings. But then when we do, we feel like we're told, suck it up, or stop being a baby, or put your big boy panties on. And that's what society has told them too. So I do feel like when it comes to vulnerability, we females have to be vulnerable enough to hold the space for our men to be vulnerable. I think it's uncomfortable for us when our husbands are showing emotion or showing what society has labeled as weakness in the man's role. And I think it's something that is we're raised that way. So I think it's something that you need to work towards in your marriage so your husband can feel safe being vulnerable and that you get comfortable with it. Because if you're really, really honest, a lot of women are not comfortable with their husbands being weak, quote unquote.
It's true, but I think you find a lot of times in society, at least what we see, you either have one extreme or the other, right? You have one extreme of a guy that shares nothing, he's vulnerable, nothing, or he just cries and whines about everything.
Yeah.
He's overly emotional. And I think both of those could be remedied by having healthy conversations about vulnerability and having open space and being, a safe space to share.
Yeah, the cry one, you should be a mama's boy.
Right.
No, kidding.
But that's what ends up happening, right? And so then they shut down and then, they become alcoholics. I don't know. But, but in all reality, that's the truth, right? You usually only see one of two. You usually don't see the healthy ones, because to become a secure man in your vulnerability, you have to have somebody, especially your spouse, that is willing to work through those things with you.
Well, and in our instance, we've had to work very hard in both aspects, right? Like
on both sides.
Yes, on both sides. That's what I mean. Because a lot of females, and I'm not saying men haven't dealt with this either, right? But a lot of females, more females, I would believe, than men have trauma as far as maybe sexual trauma or physical trauma growing up in their life. And some females, like myself included, I became like a stone wall. And I was not comfortable being vulnerable. I wasn't going to be vulnerable. In fact, I was going to be angry and all of vulnerable. Yeah, the exact opposite of vulnerable at all times. Yeah. And so in some marriages, like our marriage, Josh isn't comfortable being vulnerable either. And so we both had to work on allowing each other and encouraging each other to be vulnerable. And I think encouragement is the key word in that.
It is. And I didn't used to be comfortable with vulnerability. I've become very comfortable.
You become more, yeah.
Yeah, much more. I mean, not very as in like I'm comfortable with all vulnerability. No, that's not true. But I think with us though, I mean, I think I've grown 90% since we've been together.
Yeah, I would say that.
Would you agree? Yeah. So make sure that if you are looking, it's never too late. If you're looking to have deeper intimacy, the first thing is to make sure you're embracing vulnerability. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is you need to learn to set new traditions. Set new traditions.
It's never too late to set new traditions.
It isn't.
And Josh and I have done a couple podcasts on this, actually, as far as when it comes to like Christmas time and the holidays and things like this. So it's to me, this is twofold. So you be open to setting new traditions when you first become blended. Like a lot of couples, like I come with my own traditions, what I did with my kids about certain things, birthdays, holidays, tooth fairy, like all of these things, like specific traditions. I mean, Christmas presents, I don't know if kids are listening, earmuffs. Okay, earmuffs for really quick. But should the presents from Santa be wrapped, not wrapped? It's something simple like that under the tree type of thing. So I just think it's important that it's never too late to set the new traditions, becoming a blended family. But also, once you are a blended family, as your kids are getting older, you have to be open to doing new traditions as the seasons change, as your children grow and become older too. So to me, that's twofold, because because I'm in a blended family, I was like, man, it's just sad when I was losing like all these spark things of the kids, like the Easter Bunny and all of those things. Yeah. And then we had to talk about new traditions so we could still do something special with our kids.
Yeah. And let's be honest, right? Blended families, anytime you're in a second, third, fourth, or beyond marriage and you get together, it's almost a non-negotiable. Traditions have to be embraced. Like brand new ones, they have to be started. If you don't, it feels like you're living in someone else's house. You're living on someone else's life. So that's a for sure. But if you are a nuclear family and you've been married for a long time and you feel like your traditions are just, it's whether you feel it or not, it's so important that you start new traditions, because our lives are in seasons. They just are. Like Christy and I, her youngest has just graduated high school, which is putting us into a different season of life. It is automatically like we just naturally become into a different season. Now it's time to start some type of new tradition that we're going to do. Right? It's important that we do that, and it keeps our relationship active and feeling new and feeling fresh. And I think it's just so important that we do that. It's things that we never think about. It's like, oh, this is what we've always done. It's just we've always done things this way. And nobody's saying that you need to change your other traditions necessarily, right? But you need to be willing to, willing to open to talk about it. But how about embracing a new tradition? Maybe starting something new. It's never too late to do that. I don't care if you're 48 years old or you're 28 years old, or you're 108 years old. Maybe a little hard then. I don't know. Depends on the tradition.
The tradition
it's like water skiing or something. Probably shouldn't pick that up, but it's just really important, right? So make sure that it's never too late to start a new tradition. All right. So that's number 2.
And I don't want you guys to think like, well, I've been in a blended family now for 25 years and we're into the grandparent phase and things are set with the way that they're done. That's not the point. The point is it's never too late to start a new tradition. If you guys have thought about doing something for the family, like, okay, you're going to start doing Christmas in July. Like, let's start doing a Christmas in July, or let's start doing a family vacation in July or something. Like, you guys need to talk about it, because it does bring new spark
It
to
does.
the relationship, to the family, all of those things.
It does. It really does. All right. Number 3. It's never too late to start learning together. This is one of my favorites of this tonight. It's never too late to start learning together.
I agree with this so much. So I don't know what it is right now. I don't know if it's the season that I'm in mentally or what, but I am really wanting to do different new things. Like I was telling Josh, like I would like to look at different areas on the map of Michigan and just drive somewhere on a Saturday and walk around and explore. And I don't know, I haven't always wanted to do that. Like a lot of times I'm like, I would rather just stay at home, type of thing. But I'm really wanting to go out and do new things. And Josh has really been wanting to do a cooking class together. He's been saying it for a while, and we need to look one up and do it. But one thing that we did a couple years ago with a couple of our friends is we went to a glass blowing class.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot because that was so much fun. And that's not something that you typically do, right? You typically don't blow glass unless you are a glass blower as a job.
I don't actually know anybody that's a glass blower.
No, the people that we met down at the glass,
right?
The glass, and so it's hilarious though, because you take this super long stick with this goo that's glass, but it's goopy, and you stick it into the glory hole, and it's the fire. Okay, they don't call it a kiln.
She just likes saying glory
They
hole.
call it a glory hole. And you do, and you can do all these different colors, and it's so much fun. I would like to do it again, but it wouldn't be the same doing it the second time because the first time is so much fun. So doing new things together, like a cooking class, I think that would be fun.
It is learning together. What does learning together look like for you and your spouse? Like I was telling Christy earlier.
Oh, sign language. I just was telling you the other day I want to learn sign language together.
You were. You could sign me instead of hitting me. So that would be cool. So I was telling Christy earlier today, though, when it comes to like learning something new together, in what ways are we trying to learn new things? I think it's important that each of us, because we each have like our own careers. A lot of times people have their own careers, right? The wife may have one specific career that she's doing, and the husband has something very different. And you spend a lot of time doing that. And that's an area of growth that you continuously move in. But how are you learning together? In what ways are you learning together? Maybe it is a hobby. Maybe it is that. Maybe it is a side business. Maybe it's something on the side that you guys want to do together. Maybe it's, I don't know, creating some type of garden and selling vegetables, or
a website design,
or cornhole boards, or website design, or I don't know, whatever it is that works for you guys. But it's like, let's come up with something, right? Let's be intentional about it. Or it can't be, we just don't have anything in common. No, you should have something in common. You're married. And if you're not doing something together and learning together, you're not growing together. And that's such a thing that's probably been one of the most important things I think, in my marriage, is my wife and I love to learn together. And it's something that we do is we share an Audible account. And so we listen to books. Not that we listen to them together, but we listen to the same books. But then we're also able to talk about the things in the books that we both listen to. And there are always some type of individual personal growth books that we listen to. And whether that's financial or, whatever, however it is. And we get to talk about those things, and we get to connect on a really special level because of that. It's important that you learn together.
I think it's very important to start doing these things now, maybe before your kids are grown and moved out, because a lot of couples, you'll hear about the kids get grown and they moved out, and then the husband and the wife are living two completely separate lives. Like each of them go to their jobs and then they come home, and the wife is doing 75 different women's ministries at the church, and the husband is in hunting groups and fishing groups or poker groups or pool groups or whatever it is, fantasy football groups and things like that. And they're just doing a whole bunch of separate things away from each other. Whereas, and it's never too late, right? Like if you guys are in that season now and you and your spouse are already like set doing all these separate things, just start out talking with one another and saying, what's one thing that we could do together? Something, a hobby, or maybe a weekly thing that we could go do together. Like in Michigan, you can do during the fall, go do the fall colors. And in the summer, you could go do, like blueberry festivals, cherry festivals, strawberry festivals, like all of these different festivals. And in the winter, you guys could literally go sledding together, or you could go just walk like to Frankenmuth and look at ice sculptures, just things like that. There's things that you guys could start together to do, even if you're already in a season of doing things apart.
It is, but you can also find your passions together doing those things.
Yes.
You know, maybe those are things
Maybe
that
you guys
really...
could become like ice sculptors.
Maybe you just like to go see ice sculptures, but I think that is good. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, our last thing is it's never too late to start listening. What's that mean? Start listening.
So I think this is a key thing, because if you guys are going to start being vulnerable, if you guys are going to start thinking about new traditions, and if you guys are going to start learning things together, to do any of those things, you have to be able to listen to one another. And you need to be able to talk about the things and sit down and say, I'm not going to talk over you. List out to me 3 things that you would like to start doing, or something that you think could spark our relationship, whether it's something to be vulnerable for, to do a connection, a new hobby that we could start doing together, or something to do to learn together. You give me 3 things and I'll give you 3 things, and then let's talk about it together, and really hearing one another. And sometimes in the beginning you do have to start and you have to write it down, so that you are listening to them and they're not just talking to you and all you do is see their mouth moving because you're thinking about 75 things that you want to say. So if you're writing it down, it's forcing you to listen to them if you struggle with listening, because you're writing what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, right? Everybody in a marriage, the statistics tell us, like, one of the number one problems in marriage is communication. And it's not because enough words aren't being said, okay? It's because words aren't being heard. And the reason why is the further we go in marriage, the more that we feel like we're not being heard. So all we care about is trying to make our partner feel what we're trying to tell them. And the partner gets sick and tired of us trying to do that. And then they become wanting to just make sure that they're being heard because they don't feel like they're being heard. So there's enough on both sides of I'm not being heard, I'm not being heard. So it's never too late to start listening. Somebody's got to pick it. It's just like earlier I said, you have to pick it and say, hey, you know what? Today, from now on out, I'm going to start listening to what my partner says. And then I'm going to act on whatever it is that they said. And you will be shocked if you've been married for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, and you do something and you guys are not communicating well, and then all of a sudden your spouse says something, and then the next day, like Christy said yesterday to me, we have an incense thing in our house, right? One of those oil diffusers.
Diffuser, yeah.
And she looked over to me and she's like, why don't you use that anymore? And I'm like, I do use it. And she's like, you haven't used it in a long time. And I'm like, no, it's probably been a couple weeks, you know. But she probably didn't even realize it. But before she even got home today, I put some stuff in it and I turned it on. And it's running right now. But that's okay. That's all right, right? It's the listening part. Yeah. It's the listening and then responding. It's never too late to do those things, right? I could easily have sat yesterday and argued with her because I'm like, I had it on at Life Group. We had Life Group 2 weeks ago, and I don't care about any of that stuff. It's not about being right. I want my wife to know that she's being heard, right? And in doing that, I have to be willing to listen. And for her to know that I'm listening, I have to be willing to respond to that. And trust me, it takes a while sometimes. And everything you're not going to get noticed for everything that you're listening to, okay? But that's not the point. The point is eventually you're going to stop saying as much or demanding as much, and you're going to start listening, and you're going to start speaking something special into your spouse that you really care about what they have to say. And that, to me, is the ultimate thing that it's never too late to start.
Well, let's talk about today, like what we just had a conversation today on the way home. So Josh, today's his birthday, right? We've all said. And so if you were listening. So a couple days ago, I told him, so Josh, many of you know that I work a full-time job, full-time career. I'm gone. I work relatively far away from the house. I have a lot of, over an hour commute back and forth each way to work. And Josh does all the cooking. I was going to say primarily does all the cooking, but he does all the cooking. I cook about like once a year. And so I told him, I'm like, for your birthday, I don't want you, Josh, by the way, where's my pizza? We still owe Pat Jones pizza.
We do? I don't know.
Yes.
Somebody just made a comment on here and we're reading it because it came up. Christy's like,
sorry, I did tell Pat that you would make him a pizza.
And I will make you a pizza, Pat.
And I never did take it.
I don't know where you live, sir. I can't really mail it to you.
So
thank you, Jen Rogers. Thank Thank you,
So
Montoya.
I told him, I said, and it is a joke too, that I don't cook. Okay. I could cook, but it's not going to be nearly as good as his. Like I even said, you have two options. Okay. So I can make my chicken enchiladas, which everyone loves. And I'm very good. And I'm very good at making them.
Very good.
Or I can pick something up. But I don't want you having to cook on your birthday, right? I want to do it for you.
And you said this yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think
it feels like a couple days ago, but it wasn't today. This conversation did not happen today. I know that. Okay,
because we're getting to a point. We are coming to a point, and it's going to be about that.
So on my way home, we're talking to one another. We have our AirPods in, and AirPods pick up the slightest noise. So if you have an AirPod in and you're trying to hide something from a person you're talking to, you're not, because they can hear it. And I'm on the phone talking to him, and I hear like he's putting salt in a pan, okay, I just picture a thing of water, a vat of water, and he's putting salt in it. And I was like, "What are you doing right now? Are you cooking dinner?" And he was like, "Yeah, I am." And I'm like, "Josh." And this was a really good conversation, actually. I wish we could have recorded it and played it back, because this is how the next level of where our relationship has gotten to as far as communication goes. I could have been, or the old me would have been really mad, because I would have been like, I try to do something nice for you, and it's like, you just treat me like I can't do it because I'd forget or something. I could have went into that. Instead, I was like, Josh, I really wanted to do something nice to you. I heard him, though, because then he's like, yeah, but you work all day long, and the last thing that I want you to do is have to come home and make a meal. You don't normally cook. That's your job. And taking care of the household and cooking and doing these things is my job. So you've done your job all day. This is my job. And it helped me realize the way that he felt about it. So then I was like, okay, that's fair. But it's like presence. Like not control, but I monitor the finances, right? I do all the budgets and all of those things. And he says to me all the time, you buy me a gift on my birthday and I don't know about it because you already know how much we have budgeted and all these things. But I can't just go out and buy you a gift for your birthday because I don't do the budget. And he's always felt like that was unfair. And so we had to work that out. So I'm like, it's like that though, Josh. Like, I wanted to do something nice for you today, and you didn't give me the opportunity to talk to me about it because it's important to me. It makes me feel bad that you're having to cook. So he stopped cooking what he was doing, and he said, okay, so you can stop and pick something up on the way home. And I asked him what he wanted. He wanted Chinese food, and so I stopped and picked up Chinese food. But that is something today that happened on the way home that in the old, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that would have went in a completely different direction. That would have been like, I'm ticked because I asked you to do something. You're just not doing it. You're just doing what you want. You know, it's what you normally do. You're stubborn, you know, and then he would be like, I didn't want you to have to do it because you work, you know, and then it would have been a fight, but it wasn't.
No, it was not. And to be honest with you, I wasn't doing it sneakily, right? She was going to eat the food when she got home. Right? It wasn't like I was trying to sneak, right?
No, I was just doing it.
I was just doing it. I don't mind doing it. And it's my birthday. So I'm like, why is she going to care? But she does care. And so we didn't really have a deep conversation. I thought in my assumptions from yesterday when she was saying something, she was like, well, you know, if you don't want to cook, you know, I'll just, you know, I'll pick something up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, all right. If I want to, I'll let you know. And that's the way that my mind took it, which her mind took it very different than that. And so when she called me and she was saying these things like, hey, I'm like, hey, real quick, I just want you to know real quick, I'm really sorry. Like, I am sorry. And I'm going to stop cooking right now because, you know, I want to make sure I make this right because this wasn't my intent at all. And she handled it so beautifully in the beginning, it made it way easier for me to apologize and say, hey, I'm going to stop this right now. I'll just finish making this for tomorrow. And, you know, she really felt like, hey, you know, she wasn't going to come home and cook. And I'm really weird about takeout food because I think most of it tastes gross by the time you get it home. So, you know, she gave me a couple options and I said, yeah, Chinese food sounds good. Like, it actually sounds good. And so she did. And that's a great way. I think in the moment, though, it wasn't just one of us listening. I think we both truly were trying to listen to each other. Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
I'm confirming. I'm reconfirming, right? I'm using what we call echo technique. Okay. I'm echoing. I'm letting her know that I heard her. Okay. Which is listening. Okay. And it's never too late. And it is important. And it's hard at times. And sometimes you feel jaded or hurt or your spouse doing something intentionally.
I'm trying to up my game,
that
though.
So wrong sometimes.
But I'm trying to up my game, though, because if we're being 100% honest, I'm really trying to Like he has turned me into, it's his fault. Okay. He has turned me into a full-fledged queen brat.
You can't be pointing fingers at me today. It's my birthday.
That's true. I'm sorry. But I'm trying to be more cognizant of if we were weighing, if he kept score, I would be losing, right? As far as birthdays go, remembering anniversary, to get gifts, to get a card, to do all those things. He's much more attentive around those types of things and much more forgiving if he gets me a card on our anniversary and I forgot to get a card. Like, didn't even cross my mind. I'm super busy. I'm not being present. I'm not thinking about us. And I carry a lot of conviction about that I need to get better at it. So I'm trying to be more like when I'm walking around the house, I go into the fridge. He usually always asks me if I want something to drink. If he's in the fridge, I don't. Like, I just go get myself something to drink. And so I'm trying to be more cognizant. And I feel like I should get a gold star in my own head, right? I go to the fridge. I'm getting myself a pop. I'm like, babe, would you like a Coke Zero? And I'm like, yeah, I remembered, and I don't tell him that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm proud of myself for those little things.
Okay, hang on. Do you think that I need to be made feel special? Do you think I need that?
Yes.
No. Do you think? Okay, that's not the response I was. I think you're missing.
I think
what I'm
I should make
no,
you
no,
feel
that's not what
special.
I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Do I come across as someone that feels like I need someone to make me feel good?
No.
Right.
But you should, to be vulnerable.
Okay. That's my version.
Touche.
This is the difference, though, right? I feel as though because of the way that you've been treated your whole life, is that you deserve to be treated in an exceptional way at all times.
I love that I feel that way.
And we get a queen brat out of it. But I think that's probably just the difference is all.
Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't or, blah, 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 right? And I know that you do. You put a ton of effort in that stuff because even I will fight and argue about certain things. And she's like, no, I'm doing this for you, whether you like it or not. Like, I don't care if it's a mortgage or a house. We're doing it for you. And you do that, right?
Yeah.
So I know that. But I just look at you a little bit different in the sense like, you deserve everything and then 10 times more. And I just view that way at all times. Like, I think to myself, like, not only should I make the food, I should bring you the food.
Except for massages. He doesn't feel that way about massages.
And the queen brat comes out in full effect.
Ah, man. Happy birthday, babe.
It's never enough. It's never enough. You start listening. All right.
Anyway, let's recap.
Yeah,
We've gotten off on a squirrel trail.
Yeah, it's easy to do that. Okay, so it's never too late, right? And here's the 4 points. It's never too late in marriage and in life. It's never too late to embrace vulnerability. It's never too late to set new traditions. It's never too late to start learning together. And it's never too late to start listening. If you want to take your marriage to the next level, if that is something that you care about, it's something that you desire, you have got to start doing these things. It doesn't matter how much struggle has been in the past or how much water's under the bridge. I said this earlier, and Christy, I love saying this quote. She likes it too. Today is the best day. Is the best day to start to grow. Or no, 20 years ago was the best time to plant a tree, and the second best time is today. And I think it's really important that we understand it's just never too late. We have to start now if we want to make a difference in our marriage. It has to be today.
Yeah, and I do want to read this Bible verse because I think this one is a powerful one. James 1:19, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I think that is a really important Bible verse because I think certain Bible verses like that one, we can look at someone else and say, you should be quick to listen, slow to speak. But when it comes to pointing those same Bible verses at ourselves, we're not as good. So I think that's a really good Bible verse to end on.
It is. It is. All right. Anything else before we close?
Happy birthday, babe.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. And I will end the night with me giving her a massage for my birthday.
No, we're not doing that. Don't even think that's going to happen because it's not.
She's like, whoa, I don't want that. Okay. I don't want people thinking that about me.
Yeah. No.
All right, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. If you hadn't had a chance yet, please like, subscribe, depending on what platform you are on, and hit share if you can. Share this episode, and pay attention on TikTok. If you're not following us there. We're starting to roll out a bunch of new clips. We're starting to do shorts and stuff, so pay attention to that. And if you get a chance, like and share them if you see them. We'd really, truly appreciate it. Next week, we're going to have an interview again, and it's going to be a couple from our group, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Carrie and Rob, they're huge. They went through our couple journal, and this is what Josh and I really love to hear about is, the tools that we try to put out to help us, that can help others. We think they can help others, right? But we only know if we get feedback. Yeah. And Carrie and Rob worked through our couples journal together and really gave positive feedback about how much it's changed their life. And they're very open about their relationship. They're very active in our group. So I'm excited to have them on.
Yeah, us too. So 7 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday, live here. Have a great night.
Bye.